Hey, hey,
Good
hey,
morning.
welcome to the weekly wrap up.
How are we all? Thank you for joining us wherever you are in the world. It's the morning for me and the evening for Lisa, I believe.
It is the evening. It's still cold outside, so I've got my new jumper on. So it's lovely, isn't it,
Mm,
Josh?
don't think it suits you, to be honest.
Oh,
A
is
little
that
too small.
correct?
Yeah,
May have been left. So, ownership is what is it? 9%, 90%, 99% of the law? Is that right?
90, what's?
I don't know. I didn't
Uh,
even know that saying. I was trying to say that saying that ownership is 99% of the law or something. I don't know what it is.
I don't know. Okay, we've got Sadie, Liz joining us, Sean on YouTube. Says good day, you beautiful people, and you, Josh. Give one. Q as well, saying something about XRP, please. It's often
Yes, I've
requested.
got XRP. It's probably the most requested chart I ever get. So other than BSV, but wow.
So,
So
okay, let's dive into it.
first, you would see this. I've got a post on Twitter at the moment with a link. So this is my book released a few months ago and still doing really well, and people are learning lots from it. It's huge. You can see it's got lots of information in there. And towards the back, if I can find it, should have had this organized before I got it in there. There's some charts in there anyway that tell you how to do Lisa Nachi. Here we go. That explains how I get my projection, my wave projection. So if you want to know how I do it, it's in my book. So Become a Millionaire in 1 year, and that explains how to do the 1,000 to millions theory, where you can do 3% every trade and compound until you get to $1 million. So 1,030 becomes 1,063, and it continues to grow as it compounds. Or you can do 72 trades at 10%. So it takes you a lot quicker, but obviously 10% is going to be a little bit slower, because unless it's in this market and we're heading into a bull market, 10% is going to be a lot easier, but it does take a few more days than 3% does. So yeah, link on X, and you can get it on Amazon. So now that I've plugged to that, let's get into BTC. Need some glasses. So we are still underneath this resistance for BTC. So the resistance region is about 71. Now, this can still reject at this position. We're getting quite high on the RSI. Now, if we head to Elliott Wave forecast.com, we can see that we are still in potentially a WXYXZ pattern. So that's an extended correction. That is still possible at this point until we do break through the high. Yeah, so it could look like either one of these still. So we've got the right ratios still happening on these 333 patterns. Obviously, we don't want it to be that, and we want it to break through. If we get to around 74, 700-ish, and so what I would like to see ideally is, BTC might reclaim this region here, come up, retest, consolidate, and then break through, hit that 74 sort of 700 mark, and come back and retest this level. So it's going to be a slow process unless we get a tether print. But that's kind of what it's looking like. We're heading sideways. We do need to cool down on the stock RSI. So it's kind of going sideways at the moment. That does happen from time to time. We can see in this region, we went sideways from the 5th of May to the end of May. So that's kind of, a month of sideways. And that was this region here. Potentially that's the same in this region here. So I do see a pullback over the next day or so, and then a continuation. We should definitely get to around that 71 mark at least, and then a little bit more consolidation there. just do watch out for those tether prints, because that does mean potentially we're just going to go straight up. So that's what we ideally want to see. When we compare the current chart 2024 to way back in 2020, where we were in the market, and we have a look at where we were on this chart, so we can see that around this period, we're sort of sitting just above this median line. And so this is October. So we were way under by this stage. So this is October. So down in this region, this is kind of our August region. We're sort of sitting down that region. Here, same thing. This breakout of the fibs did happen around December. So this is the mark for December. So we've still got a little bit of consolidation to go before we do get there. Slightly different pattern because we are in a third wave. So this region will consolidate before breaking through. So that gives us our 87K, and then we are off and running. So ideally, if it breaks through earlier, that's even better because we're going to get higher highs. But at the moment, we are on track for a really good, strong bull run. So looking good. US dollar is following the pattern that we've been watching, and it's crossed down on the MAs on the 4 hour. So a continuation there would be lovely. I do see when we get to about 4.62%, we're going to get a bounce, which means that's when BTC will have a minor pullback. Hopefully just a minor one, and then USDT dominance will continue to decline. ETH, we're looking at an ETF next week. We are quite high on the daily on the stock RSI, so this is probably going to cool in this area. It could go down as low as the 200, which is 3,200. Which will allow this RSI to also cool, which has hit a resistance. So when we have a look at that, we can see that we're at a resistance. So this is probably just going to cool a little bit in this region, something like that, before breaking through. And as we can see, ETH does get quite high on the RSI. So with an ETF on the way, I would anticipate it getting into the 90s before we do see that pullback. So that's like heading right up to this region, and before we do get that pullback. So that's a really good sign that there's lots of strength to come for Ethereum, and this is potentially just a bit of sideways momentum happening. So I do think this pattern for ETH is complete. So we've got an A, a B, and a C. And this is the start of our impulse of our next wave. So slightly different pattern to what BTC has. Yeah, so that is the two majors at the moment. And we've got some alts.
Absolutely.
We've got Anonymous there. Hi, dudes, when moon.
Hopefully soon.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you wanted to share before we jump into alts? I know you've got a few lined up.
I do.
A few still coming through in the requests. But okay. All right. Well, let's take a quick 30-second break. If I can find the right button, we'll come back with some alts.
And we are back with some alts.
Let's do it.
Okay. First alt we have is ARK. Now, these new charts are incredibly difficult to get an accurate sort of result. So if we look at this as a wedge, we look at this as being bottomed. We can see on the RSI here, this is a daily, does look to have bottomed. What we are currently seeing is a cross of the two EMA. So this is a 9 and a 21 EMA. If you head to YouTube, if you're not already on there, I've got how to use the 9 and 21 EMA for scalping. Usually use those on lower time frames, but when they do cross on a higher time frame, it does get quite exciting, because that usually means that we're getting a retest higher. So the way the theory goes of using the 2 and the 2 EMAs, the 9 and the 21, is basically when they cross and they retest, you then get quite a good bounce up to these regions. So and they head for the 100 and the 200 MA or SMA. So that's a 67% move to that region and 105% move to that upper region, which is also the resistance, and hopefully a breakout at that point, and that is when it will start running. So at the moment, this could be complete, or it could get one more wave down, depending if it rejects in that region. But it does have a good chance of progressing higher here. So that to me is worth, you know, throwing $100 or however much you've got into that trade, because potentially it looks quite good. WIF is another fairly new chart, but we've got a little bit more data for this one. We do have a pivot coming up, which means that potentially this could be a fourth wave coming down for a fifth. So that is at 3.085. So WIF does need to pass that to remain bullish. So it may hit that point and then come back down. So what that looks like at the moment is 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a fifth wave down. So our wave 1 is all the way back down here. So potentially that could come all the way back down here before the actual bull run starts for WIF. If it breaks through in this region, this will be impulsive, and it will essentially look something like that, being our wave 1, coming back down and then heading back higher. So, and potentially going to the 1.618, but it does need to break through that 3.08 pivot. So I think it's got a little bit more room to move here, but it's still got that pivot just above. So just be careful on that one. YGG, I do think is about to head to 6.22. I've got a target on there. When I put some fibs on that, I'm just going to take some of this stuff off. Doesn't want to come off. So when we put some fibs on that, it is in could potentially be in an impulse 1, 2, 3, in a 4, and heading up for a 5. So right now it's sitting right at the pivot, and it does look quite bullish though. So it could be heading to 69. Needs to pass that pivot, which is sitting at about 6.2. DOT hasn't fared great since they had a bit of controversy. So it's currently traveling along quite a tight support, which is nice. I do think it's got one more pullback, may just pull back one more time just below that support, probably to the bottom of this zone around 5.8, 5.79, and then a continuation up. So this is a signal that I've got ready for GSIC. I'm just waiting on one more wave to pull back, and then it's going to take off. XRP, the one you guys all love. So like WIF, has 2 patterns. It did 5 waves. Could potentially, and I'm just going to pull this one off, just have a sideways kind of triangle forming here. That would look something like that, which is kind of happening at the moment. But there's also a second pattern, which means that this is an ABC, and due to the fact we've got the MAs there, may only come back to the 0.5, which is at about 51. So good idea to have a couple of orders sitting a bit lower, maybe one at 55 and some more at 51, and then it should take off and head up to about 73. It did break the pivot, so it's in a good pattern. Another one, this is my call from last week that I said I love trading this one. It's just so volatile, and that's why we're here. We love the volatility of the market, and that has done 220% this week. So if you got into PopCap when I mentioned it last week, it's a high risk trade because it is a very, very new chart. This is a 2-hour chart, but it has done 220%. I still think it's got a little bit more to go. When we look at the waves here, we're currently in the third wave where, you know, as long as this comes back down and holds about 82, this is good to head up. So to finish this 3, and then we've got a 4 and a 5 to go. And the other one that I get lots of requests for on Twitter is Pepe. Because you guys, you know, obviously meme coins are the flavor of the moment. So Pepe is on the pivot as well. So the same as what WIF is coming up to. The pivot is at the 236, which is 1333 with lots of zeros in front. So if that doesn't pass in that region, it will come back down to the 618. So this did go mid-fib, which makes me think maybe it may still be coming down. So when we put some waves on that, it kind of looks like this. 1, 2, 3, a tight. That looks a bit wonky. So perhaps it is a impulse in this region. So if it is an impulse, it needs to hold 984 with lots of zeros in front. And that impulse would probably retest the high coming up like that. And potentially, if that doesn't break the high in this region, it is coming back down for a retest. So after a 5th wave, it's going to pull back anyway. So make sure you learn to count waves. It does look like it might have one more wave. So if this 3rd can break, and then this region, so we want it to break that 133 area, then pull back to 1090 at the very lowest. That means that this is impulsive and will continue. So yeah. And then we've had a couple of others I can see. Yeah, we've got as well. Robbie White, Damn Sal, who's in the group. So hi to both of you. INJ, let's have a look at that one. Looks to be having a bit of a struggle moment in this region. So when we're looking at this, we've got one, we're kind of mid-fib on that. So we look to have an ending diagonal in this region, or a starting diagonal. It does look more like an ending diagonal, so may pull back, or occasionally they do hold them, because I'll show you with a pattern. We can see that we've got coming up, we've got this is resistance, it's now crossed over, and this is support. So if it can hold the support region in this area, then it will continue up. It is sitting at the pivot on this pattern, so it does need to break through that region. Needs to break through 28.75 to remain bullish. And it doesn't have a lot of volume at the moment. So that doesn't mean that things can't change, but it does look like it's getting a bit of sell pressure happening there at the moment.
Okay, there's also CRO in the emails.
Well, that's a choppy chart. Very choppy chart. Oh, somebody look at that. I love seeing these charts because somebody's got it all excited when they first got in, and they've fat fingered that and put a big market order in, and there was no liquidity, and somebody's just sold down. So it's gone 1,000%, and they've probably come back down and lost all of that money.
Isn't that likely to be, because it's Crypto.com's coin, isn't it likely to be them?
It could be them, but it's like, yeah, that's on KuCoin though. So it's like, that's when it's listed. So it's listed and somebody's gone, yes, this is going to be the best coin ever. And no, but we can see that we've got 5 waves in that pattern. We've come back down. We did hold the low. So that does mean we could potentially be going into the impulse in this range, and we did get 5 waves here as well. So having a look to see where this is pulled back to, we got back to the 786, which is a really strong correction. It needs to kind of get up to around the 0.5 here, back up and reclaim that region. So this is a daily, so 11,114 is a good range. So if we drop this down to a 4-hour chart, we can see that we've got support now of the MAs. So that's a really strong indicator that this is about to take off and show some momentum. So as long as it passes the 1188 point here, that's the pivot. That's going to be a really positive sort of sign that this is really, really bullish. But a rejection there is obviously then needs to hold the low, depending on what the wave count is at that point. And yeah, so 9021 is likely the pullback at this region, and then should take off. So it's getting a bullish cross on the 100 and 200 MAs, and they're sitting underneath. So that's a really strong sign. Looking good.
Okay, cool. It looks like everyone's happy there. All charts, I believe, has been done. Anything else from your end, or?
No, I think that's all good.
That's all. Okie dokie. Well, thank you for joining, everyone, and have a good week ahead. We will see you.
We will, and don't forget to find me on X and in GSIC, getting started in crypto.com. And again, thank you to BingX for sponsoring us again. If you want $100 to trade with, head to my Twitter post, X post, and if you sign up KYC, they will give you $100 to trade, and it's withdrawable. So yeah. Thanks for watching, guys.
Excellent. Thanks a lot. Bye.